let's talk energy. How do we make enough energy to power GPT-8 or whatever's going to come in the next 4 years? Again, I think to frame this up, we're already seeing a loosening in nuclear policy and regulation. Texas is building more solar panels than the rest of the country because it's easier to build there. How are we going to make enough energy? And is Trump good for energy or not?
Well, I will say that the bid to use nuclear to power that Amazon data center was rejected by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission under Biden. So I think we'll see what happens, but I could definitely see Trump administration being pro-nuclear and reversing some of these decisions to reject efforts by big tech to use nuclear power, restart these nuclear reactors.
Hopefully, I think more likely than not he's friendlier to nuclear, but I don't think we know for sure.
I mean, I think nuclear is a tough one because everyone's afraid of meltdowns, Chernobyl, yada, yada, yada. Even though I think you can objectively say nuclear hasn't killed that many people, nuclear energy for the record, not nuclear weapons.
Right.
It's just very scary to people. It's just got this fundamentally scary element to it.
I think populist. It's not a populist.
Yeah, it's not a populist energy source, and Trump is nothing if not very sensitive to populism. I think solar is a much more interesting one. I just keep seeing more and more data about how much cheaper solar's gotten in the last couple decades. It's now basically cheaper than any new source of energy.
And Texas is rocking solar, right?
Exactly,
I mean, it is like just deregulate, don't tell people what to do with their houses, and you'll get a lot of solar.
Yeah,
and so
Texas solar is really the argument that, a deregulatory environment is perhaps better for the climate than people who vibe more with climate change being an issue. Like, Texas is probably the most impactful state in the union in terms of progressing our clean energy future, because you can just throw up solar panels in like a couple months there. And you can't do that anywhere else in America, certainly not California. And so arguably Texas is having a more positive impact on America's transition to clean energy than any other, major state government, or than the federal government, certainly.
I hate that the first one is pro-Trump. that's our bias. I showed it right there. I mean, one thing, I do think it's not surprising that on the measurement of unrestrained energy production without much regard for environmental impact, who's going to win? Any generic Republican, I think, is sort of a traditional answer there.
I mean, I think to your point, we can caveat all this with Trump changes his mind all the time. He did Operation Warp Speed, and now he basically wants to ban vaccines. So, no guarantees that their stated situation is where we'll end up with solar panels. But I think trying to be a little optimistic in the midst of the sort of darkness of this experience, that maybe this will be really good for clean energy in the United States.
And obviously, there's also just the risk of like favoritism, where it's like Amazon maybe never gets their nuclear contract approved, but Elon gets 3 of them. So that'll be another issue.
Totally in play.